let's go back here. I'm not gonna mess up more.
Hello, everyone. How are you? I hope you're having a nice evening and a nice week so far. Um, I see some names who are regular, and I'm so happy to see you. I have with me Aaron, Steph, and we are waiting for everybody to be in so we can start. So, like usual, we will give it about 5 minutes so everybody's here, and then we can go ahead. So, if you want to say hi, unmute yourself, and please do. It's always happy to hear you, to interact with you, and to see you too. Uh, okay, we are waiting then. Bum, bum, bum. Oh, I think I said something, but I was muted. I wanted to say hi, Luna, and I saw your messages and your email, and I'm getting back to you as soon as possible. Things been a little bit hectic lately. Hi, everyone. I see people coming in. So if you want, you can unmute yourself, say hi. Uh, Meanwhile, we're still waiting a little bit, like 2 minutes more, and then we'll go ahead. Just waiting for everybody to join. I hope your week is going good so far.
Hi, Manel. Hi, everyone. Going
Hi.
good so far, Lucky. So, yes, great
Yeah,
to be here.
okay. It's been a little bit sunny too, so it's nice, I guess.
Finally. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, at least here in Brussels, but today is gray skies again. But it's Brussels, so
Well, I'm here in Stockholm, so every time that the sun goes a little bit, it's like, oh, so nice. We're like
right?
lizards outside.
Yeah,
We really take advantage of it.
I know. Thank you. Okay, I think we are going to go ahead and start. And all right, so another webinar. We have, this is the last webinar of June. And then next week, we are going to post about the new calendar. I have two amazing people with me today, and they are special ones because they are coming from Niantic. And I don't know if you know Niantic, but they are really famous for Pokemon Go. I don't know if you have done Pokemon Go at some point. I think everybody did it in like the late 2010s, right? And not only Pokemon Go, they have lots of other augmented reality games they are known for, but I know that Pokemon, everybody knows that. All right, so I'm going to leave the floor to Ira and Steph. They're going to take it from here. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. And thank you, Ira and Steph, also for giving us this hour together. So please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Manel. I hope everyone can hear us. Great. So hi, everybody. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. We're really thrilled to have you all here and really excited for our topic today. Diversity, equity, inclusivity, and belonging. It's a subject that's very close to us. It's something that we've been working on from the very beginning to build a diverse team here at Niantic. And when we're positioned in the field of security, as Steph and I both are, this starts to have its own challenges, of course. So we're really looking forward to sharing our perspectives today, and hopefully later on in the Q&A section, maybe learning a little bit from yourselves as well about your own learnings and experiences. I should say that because of the presenter mode that we've set up today, we can't actually see if you raise your hand on Teams or if you have a question that you type into the chat. So if you do have something to say, don't hesitate to just flag us and speak up and let us know. So for the agenda today, we would like to give you a small peek into what security at Niantic looks like, who we are, speak a little bit about what we do, and then of course talk about how DEIB, diversity, equity, inclusivity, and belonging fit within the context of what we do. And of course, like I said, share our own experiences and challenges. So myself, my name is Irasara. I mostly go by Ira. I've been working in the industry in the field of security for roughly 8 years, and I specialize in mobile app security. I'm now currently a senior security engineer at Niantic, and I focus on very much on anti-cheat, game security, and things like code obfuscation, code hardening, or client hardening. And I come from a background in computer science. And fun fact about me, outside of work, I very much enjoy writing short stories. I enjoy creative writing.
Nice. I'm Steph. I'm a senior security engineer at Niantic, also in Switzerland. I joined October last year, and I'm on the production security, or as most people in practice would call it, probably the cloud security team. Prior to joining Niantic, I was the manager of a security team at the Swiss scale-up. There I did everything from slide decks and compliance to education, incident response, and also engineering. Prior to that, I spent 3 years doing incident response at a big international tech company, first in Australia, and then during COVID, I relocated to Switzerland. And while I was in Australia, I also did a bit of consulting and education as well. Prior to COVID, I was quite engaged in the community, and I was involved in organizing 2 conferences and also quite a lot of meetups. One thing I want to share is what I love about my job, and that is I'm rarely bored, and I'm trusted to do a great job, which means that I regularly face new challenges, but I also get the space and support and encouragement that is needed to actually grow in a sustainable way, so I do not burn out along the way. And a fun fact about me is that in my spare time, I like doing freediving. I'm quite passionate about that. Now that we covered us as people and presenters, I'll introduce you to our company, Niantic, as well. We are a US-based software company that spun out of Google in 2010. And as Manel mentioned, we are probably most known for Pokemon Go, which came out in 2016. And we have players from all walks of life in this game. We also have some other titles that you may have played or at least heard about, which is Monster Hunter Now, Pikmin Bloom, Peridot, and Ingress. And the technology that our company focuses on building is around location-based experiences and augmented reality experiences. And for our users, we try to make all of these experiences, make the people or the players encouraged to go outside and explore the real world interact positively with each other, and all while experiencing this through augmented reality interactions. We have quite a big user base as well, in the millions. So as you may imagine, our security needs are very diverse and also quite demanding. In terms of size, we are about 900 employees in the company, and our security team is based off 14 security engineers. And we have offices in the US, the UK, Switzerland, and Japan. To break down our security team a bit more, we have a client and game security team, which Ira is on. We have a production and cloud security team, which I'm on. Then we also have software security team and corporate security team. And the majority of us sit in Zurich, Switzerland. And while in many ways we are quite a small security team for the size and scope of what we do have a very broad responsibility. This turns into that all of us on the team, we have a very diverse set of focus areas and skill sets. And this in practice, in many ways, means that we have to work well together, or we have to be able to collaborate well and also work well, communicate well together to make fast progress. And also in some cases, just to be able to make any progress at all. I think for both of us, this is one of the strengths that we see in our team. One of the other things that I think is good about Niantic, from the social side especially, is it's very easy to collaborate cross-team. It's very easy to talk to other members in the company. And we often see this when we visit the other offices. You know, the first time I visited the US office, which was earlier this year, people showed me around. They were very helpful, very friendly. And another example how this ties into our engineering is that me in cloud security, I end up messing around with different resources in the cloud. And sometimes I have to take some resources offline for a bit to do a patch or fix something real quick. All I have to do usually is just hit the person that owns the resource up on Slack, and they're usually very accommodating and supportive about what I need once I explain why, and I've never had an issue with it. So now you have a bit of context around who we are, what we do. So let's get back to the topic. And the first question I would like to ask about us is, are we a diverse team?
Before we begin, I think it's important to say that with what we share today, we're not really aiming to formulate a strategy for how D&I should work in a team or in a company, but we're really just reflecting on our own experiences, both at Niantic and pre-Niantic, and sharing that with you in the hopes that that could help. Also, I think it would be a good idea to kind of recap what these terms mean and what these principles actually bring into a team. So when we talk about diversity, we're talking about representation. That is, different people, whether it be from different backgrounds, different cultures, different abilities, they are present and they are represented in a given team. Then what about equity? What does equity bring into the equation? Equity ensures that all of these people, everyone in a given setting, is treated in a fair and just manner, and that resources are allocated to make sure that everyone has equal opportunity to achieve something. And then inclusion and belonging, these are principles that typically go hand in hand. They ensure that everyone is actively included. So for example, if there is a meeting, a discussion, or even if it's just a technical design doc that you're hashing out, we need to make sure that people are not just spectators, they're not just watching, they're on your team and they're here to contribute, and they feel safe enough, they feel seen and valued as part of the team to be able to do that. These values are absolutely fundamental for us, any one of us, to be our best selves when we work, also in our personal lives, but also at work. And these principles, They are what helps individuals perform and also grow sustainably. So it's important to understand that only when people feel like they are seen and heard and respected are they able to be their best selves. Let's not forget that before we are engineers, before we're developers, or before we're any kind of professional, at heart we are individuals with our own principle, with our own personalities and principles, and a lot of factors that shape us and who we are. As a team and even as a company, there is really no point talking about, OKRs or goals or performance if you're not really nourishing the individuals behind your engineers or developers, etc. And there's a lot of research to support this idea that a diverse group of individuals can bring a lot more to the team, to the table, and be a very effective and much more resilient team. And on this note, I'd actually like to give a really good book recommendation. It's one of my personal favorites, and it's something we did at a book club in Niantic, which makes it extra special. The book, Rebel Ideas by Matthew Syed, if you're interested in real-world use cases where diversity had a huge impact or could have had a huge impact in specific real-world cases, I would really recommend this as a good read, as an excellent read. It's an excellent resource on exactly how a group of diverse individuals bring a lot more than a group of clones essentially do. But I'm not really trying to sell you the book here, so I'll get back to the point. What I really want to focus on with this topic is, how does such a vision, how does D&I fit a group of security individuals? For certain fields like marketing, sales and marketing, user experience, design, this argument it's quite evident, and it makes a case of its own. If you say that we are targeting this sort of diverse user group and we need individuals who think and behave like our customers, like the customers we're targeting, it's quite self-evident that, okay, having input from people that reflect the views or opinions or behavior of our consumers can help us. But how do we use that argument to say, hey, this could also be good for security? This could also help our team be smarter and sharper. I mean, how could I convince my team that if we hire another woman or another person of color, that that's really going to benefit our team? And the answer to that question is that, of course, I don't know that. I don't know that at all. And there is no guarantee that a certain hire or meeting a certain quota could benefit the team in any way. Sure, there is research and historical evidence, but at the end of the day, you cannot guarantee that a specific hire would definitely benefit your team. And this is exactly why we shouldn't just try to aim, we shouldn't just aim to tick certain boxes and meet certain quotas, because when individuals start to feel like they're diverse hires, speaking from experience, that can be a very detrimental mindset. That can be something, a mentality that's very difficult to escape, and it can be incredibly damaging for both parties, for both the person being hired as well as the team that's hiring that individual. And that's something we want to avoid. And speaking on this point, I think it's a good moment to also share my personal experience, since I've been on both sides of this equation. I've been on the hiring side, where we've had the opportunity, like at Niantic, security at Niantic, we've had the opportunity to build out our team and grow our team from scratch. But I've also been on the other side of the equation, wishing to be hired and wishing that I was recognized for my skills and hoping that I wouldn't be judged based on my name or how I look. and just hoping that I'm not just going to be filling someone else's quota. I've been in this industry for 8 years, and my experience, probably similar to some of yours, other women in cybersecurity, is that most of the time I'm the only female security engineer in the room, and sometimes I'm the only person of color. And why do I pick these two facts out? Like, why do I pick these facts apart? Why do I consider it important to be shared? It's because no matter how much you appreciate your colleagues or how comfortable you are with them or how great your individual relationships are, from my experience, what I've learned is that in a room full of people that don't look like you, that don't think like you, or have no common ground with you, it's incredibly difficult to speak up. And no matter how great the people are, when taken individually, in a collective setting, when those individuals are together in a room, in that collective setting, you could start to feel very different and you could start to perceive things very differently as well. Being a woman in security or the only person of color in the room, I certainly don't share the same backgrounds as most of my colleagues. And if I look at how I got into this field as a child or as a teenager, I definitely didn't have access to the same kind of resources that most of my colleagues did. And I recall this one example when we were talking, a few of my colleagues, we were talking about talent. And I remember someone very boldly proclaiming that, hey, I believe anyone who tries hard enough can get anywhere they want to in life. And I was just sitting there thinking, wow, how privileged you are to be able to make such a statement like that. Because if I take myself, for instance, I come from a war-torn country. That was my childhood. And I know, being that person, that no matter how skilled you are or how talented you are, doesn't matter if you get straight A's, sometimes you just have certain barriers that you as an individual have absolutely no control over. And this is why awareness is absolute key. Awareness is extremely important. When you're in the industry, and especially when you're in a certain position of authority, such as being a team lead, for instance, it's really important to recognize that people may have had their own very personal, very unique pathways into this setting, into this industry. So despite coming into the field as a computer scientist, accounting for my own personal factors, I know that my career path has been unique when compared to some of my other colleagues. And everything that shaped that career path has an impact on what I do, how I think, and how I approach situations. I problem solve differently when compared to my colleagues. I solution things differently as well. That being said, it's also important to recognize that this goes for other colleagues as well, who are not necessarily different in physical appearance. And that's very important to state, because that's not the only thing diversity is about. Diversity could also mean just different levels of seniority, different trajectories. Some people, for instance, if I look at my own team, we have people on the security team that come from a software engineering background, but they have such a strong mindset. On security, they're so strongly security minded that they manage to forge a career in this industry. Diversity could also mean people have different interests. Excuse me. Excuse me. And that aspect is not immediately visible. I'm going to go ahead and let Steph cover part of the presentation until I recover from my cough.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Okay.
I have a minute if
Yeah, I'll take a note.
Okay. Yeah, we split up the slides per person, so it's a bit awkward split now, but we'll go with it. Sorry. Um, I'll share a bit about the challenges we face. We might be jumping the topics a bit back and forth. Forgive us for that. But one of the some of the challenges we face, we came up with a bit of a subtitle, which is "We didn't choose the lack of diversity." And I'll come back to that in a second, why we came up with this. And also there is one acknowledgement we would like to make as well, and that is that there's always more we can do to champion diversity in an environment, and this also holds true for us. And now back to the context. In our application pool for security engineers at Niantic, we did some number lookups before this presentation, and about 2% of the applicants are non-men. It was quite shocking to me to see this number, black and white on paper. But this lack of diversity in our environment, I don't think is that unique to us. I think from personal experience, like Ira and I talked about this prior to or while making this presentation, this is numbers roughly what we see across the industry and across companies as well. And especially also when talking to friends and other peers in the industry. And in essence, we sort of have summarized this to be at least an industry-wide issue, but probably and more realistically a more systematic problem beyond our industry. And this number, the 2% number, this is just a strong proxy which highlights this issue and one of the biggest challenges we do face when hiring. One of the things that we really struggle with is finding good candidates. And this is also especially hard to improve this ratio of getting more diversity in terms of different backgrounds and especially genders when this number is so low of applicants in the first place. And other problems we also have is that many companies, I think in at least certain regions, we have these difficulties with administrative procedures. So, for example, HR prefers to do the paperwork or prefers to hire from local talent pools first. This makes hiring a bit harder for the companies. And in some places, this diverse application pool are better. Other places, it might be worse. But on the other side of the coin, as an applicant, English is often the preferred language in many companies, and this too can be a bit of a barrier for some candidates. Also, welcome back.
Thank you. That was not planned.
Should I continue with this and then we jump back? Okay. And then I'll try to break down some of these problems a bit and how we tackle them at Niantic, especially in our security team. So first step is in the hiring pool. Like, what do we look at? How do we prioritize candidates? First off, we try to avoid bias as much as we can, like within reason. And some of the things we do in order to actually do that is that we do not talk to each other about candidates before we have submitted our own feedback. We also ask ourselves, or at least some of us try to ask ourselves regularly, would I have rated this person differently if they had a different name or they looked different or had something else that is personal that was different about them? I've also observed in practice a few times that people around the office, after we submitted the rating and the feedback, is we ask each other the same question. Would you rate this person differently if it was a different gender, for example? And now in terms of how we prioritize people, we understand that people are just people. People can have bad days, they can be unfamiliar with particular topics or just the right questions that you are asking. And so we don't put that much pressure on the specific knowledge and skills. I mean, there has to be some, of course, but what we rather try to prioritize and look for are to see what the strengths are on a technical level. What is the technical strengths of that particular candidate? And we try to adapt the questions during the interview to fit this as good as possible as well, so we can see their strengths. This is what we want to see. But we also want to see their weaknesses, or how they react to a situation that might be challenging to them, like on the technical level. And for us, the specific skills are not that important per se. But what is more important is the mindset and the cultural fit. And by this, I mean, we want to see how the candidate thinks, like how they break down a problem, how they structure their thinking. And that's basically it. We want to, and by doing that and sort of making this explicit to the candidate that we want to hear them thinking out loud, we get very good indications or very good data points on how they think and how they communicate, how they reflect on things, how they solve their problems as well. And I mean, this also culturally shows that if a person is open to share their thinking, they're more likely to also open up and be, in some sense, a bit vulnerable and discuss, the code they worked on. Sometimes, we have to accept positive criticism, etc., as long as it's constructive. This is all things that we want to see and sort of have in mind when we choose candidates that we would like to work with. And we try to have nice people that we want to see every day and be happy around and, have a positive environment. One thing we do for retention, which I think in our team is one of the best retentions I have seen on the security team, is we have ERGs, or employee resource groups. And these are voluntary groups that focus on individuals within a workplace. And often these groups are aimed to target some kind of shared identity. And for example, at Niantic, one of them is the Wolf Pack, which is a group which aims to empower and create a space for belonging for women and marginalized genders. And for employees, this can be a great place where they feel like they belong, but also a safe space where they can feel less alone when they face certain challenges or issues. If you are interested in this or want inspiration for perhaps what kind of ERGs that we have or that you might want to adopt in your organization, we have a list of these on our website. So if you type ERG, Niantic Labs, maybe diversity, this will come up as one of the first ones. And now that Ira is back, I will give the word back. Sorry.
Right. I was talking about, and again, very sorry for the interruption. I was talking about how diversity can just mean different things, and diversity is not always visible, and it's important to recognize that. And when you have such a varied set of individuals, who are different in their individual thinking capabilities, you get those individuals in a room and you start trying to solve a problem together or start engineering a solution. And that collective thought process is varied, and you have so much different varied input. That's when you really begin to notice the kind of impact that you have. So in the Niantic security team, we obviously, at a company level, we obviously have these principles guiding us, but how do we ensure that at a team level, we actually follow these principles? I mean, we talk a lot about diversity, and as Steph just discussed, in the hiring process, this can have its own challenges. And then when we talk about equity, inclusion, belonging, what about that part? How do we make sure that that's respected, post-hiring? Steph also covered ERGs. So when we onboard new employees or new team members, this is something our company very diligently follows through, making sure that employees are aware of the different resources that are available to them. For instance, the different ERGs where they can find allies and find their support groups. We also have to do certain mandatory trainings, which might be more of an American thing. but that definitely helps us as well to kind of learn or even refresh what these terms mean and how important they are for individuals and for teams. But then what about the long term? What about the retention part? And over here as well, there's a lot of things that you could do at a company level or at a team level. But today, I would just share a few pointers of things I do at a personal level, because these are things that have completely changed how I feel or how I approach certain situations within my team. So first of all, allies. Forming allies and having this kind of support network for yourself is incredibly powerful. Having a trusted colleague who identifies with, who can respect the principles you believe in, and who is able to create a safe space for you to discuss things that bother you and go over problems could help you a great deal. Secondly, this second part, flagging and fixing, that's something that happens a lot in our team. And I think that goes back to a point that Steph mentioned at the start. Why the Niantic security team, we're 14 individuals, and we have such a great dynamic. That's because we really see that individuals are different. We are able to notice that some of us may be shy, and if someone cannot speak up, I'm sorry.
Okay. Take your time.
If someone cannot speak up, we directly.
It's okay, Era. Just take your time to feel better.
Thank you so
You don't
much.
have to push it.
It's not fun to have like a dry throat.
I know.
Give a
I
webinar.
know. I have allergies too, so I always have like dry throat and dry eyes, and it's really bad. I know the feeling. Sorry.
No problem. What I was mentioning was when you notice that someone is speaking over someone or that someone is struggling to speak up, it's really worth it to, give them the stage and support that person. And the last one is something I personally do. One of the best pieces of advice that I got when I joined this company was to journal my time. My time at work, that is. And this is in the form of snippets. I've shared a screenshot of my actual snippets, a Google Doc that I maintain per year. I've obviously censored out sensitive names, but in my snippets, this is a Google Doc where I maintain bullet points of things I did that week or on a particular day, and I link every merge request, every technical design doc that I was a contributor to, every Slack conversation where I had impact, if it was resolving a bug, discussing an issue, everything that I worked on, I try to document it because it's surprisingly easy to forget. Okay, last point. When you have that and when you're able to remind yourself of the kind of impact you were able to have, this is typically a tool that's used for self-assessment, but I've also found it an incredibly powerful tool just for myself to feel confident. Whenever I start to have these feelings or start to suspect, am I a diverse hire here? I kind of just go back to my snippets. I look at all the work I've done and all the things I've achieved, and there is no better way than having very concrete things like statistics or projects that are out there in production, for instance, if that applies to you, where you've worked on a certain feature or a certain issue or a certain bug, and you can see a measurable impact of what you've achieved. That kind of documentation is incredibly powerful to remind yourself just how much you bring to the team. Okay. And I'll let Steph continue while I continue to recover.
You can take your break. All right, we're back. No, the structure got a bit messed up, but that's fine. I'd like to just share one last story. This is the last sort of topic we have to share. And this story is about a now friend of mine from when I was teaching at my university in Australia. I was teaching, and it was a student that was very passionate about the subject and asked if they could sit in on lectures because they couldn't enroll in the second year course in security, etc. But they were so passionate, and I, of course, let them in and tried to encourage them as well, and sort of have seen their progress, you know, throughout their university education, seeing how they have become a very excellent engineer. And during their bachelor degree, they did several international internships as well. And just these things alone says a lot about the person, I think, like just the dedication for the field and the passion for the field as well, and just seeing their engagement and interest in the field as well. And in my old team, they really wanted to apply for a role there, but they felt that, yeah, they were not sufficient, that they felt like an imposter and too afraid to apply. And I tried to encourage them, like we kept in touch after the degree, and we're, as said, still friends. And in the end, they did apply. And honestly, I think this is one story that is not, I don't think it's a very new story in this field. I think a lot of people might feel that way and be intimidated, especially for your first, maybe second and third job as well, that you don't feel like you're good enough. And this is, honestly, for me, from my perspective in this story, I think was in many ways quite sad to see, because this person was a better engineer than, honestly, many members of my current team, and was a much better engineer, like a higher level than many of them already working on that team. And this is the reason why I'm sharing this, is that we all have a role to play with our peers and other members of our community as well. And one thing that I would like to take away and share with you all that I found helpful in my case is trying to observe people who might hesitate or don't feel like they are good enough, and try to also push them up a bit, because reality is we are all people, and also the loudest people that are the most confident are often not the best engineers, first of all, but they're not necessarily better than quieter ones either, or people that might be a bit more reserved or a bit more reluctant in applying for a role as well. And yeah, so I said, like, think about the people around you as well, and try to be that voice and encouragement for people who might be doubting. I think at least both of us, when we talked about this presentation, I was making it, we both had experiences in the field that we were doubting ourselves. And I think this is common, and having just the right push or right motivation at the right time can make a big difference for people's career. And yeah, I think sometimes a bit about how, this is a bit sad, sorry, and depressing, but how many people might have left the field or been so demotivated that they just gave up on security, you know, which in many ways is a cool field. It has a lot of good challenges and also a lot of good people. Okay, that's it about the story time. Moving on to the conclusion. For me, some of the conclusions that I see from this talk and would like to share is that sometimes it's okay to move on in an environment. Sometimes if the environment is toxic, or you don't feel like you're progressing in a sustainable way, ideally you try to change it if you do have the capacity and effort and resources, and feel confident in doing that. And that might make the environment better for not just you, but people around you as well. But sometimes that battle can be quite daunting for people as well to take. And sometimes we have at least learned from our backgrounds that it is okay to move on. And I think we have been happy with those decisions in our cases. Another thing that we also would like to share is that you're also in many ways, especially if you're more senior, you might be running your own team or even your own company, or you just simply have peers in the industry. Try to be a champion and encourage others to do the same as well. Like, this is a great advice career-wise, but also in general in life. Like, let's make each other better, and also, yeah, try to encourage each other to do something great. Yes. I think that's it.
Yep.
Do you have more to add, Ira?
No, I think it would be good to, yes, give an opportunity for the audience to perhaps share your learnings and, of course, ask any questions. Maybe before we move on to that, just want to say real quick that we are hiring. We have positions open in our team, and if you check our website, there may be security positions that you're interested in. So feel free to take a look at that. And yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. I hope that you're feeling a little bit better now. I love, personally, I love the two real life examples you gave. And I think I'm gonna start doing the same thing you said, Ira, about keeping tabs on what you do. So you remind yourself, like you said, Steph, in moments of self-doubt or uh, uh, imposter syndrome episodes. Um, so we're taking questions now. So you have Ira and Steph for about 12 minutes. If you have any questions, please use your time to get to discuss with them anything you could have in mind. If you're comfortable, please do just unmute yourself and go ahead. Or if you are not comfortable, you can just write it down and I will read it, and that would help with answering. So anyone wants to go ahead with a question? Yes, no?
I
You can
will. I
Yes,
just
Tatiana.
want to make a comment about the snippets and the same manual that you find really useful to tracking the progress.
Yeah.
And currently, I'm not working in the field. I'm part of the mentorship with Women for Cyber. And one thing that we did with my mentor was this development plan, where we elaborate like 6 month development plan, and then I was learning to shift from the comparison with experienced professionals, and then just focus on my self preference growth.
That's
I make
great.
myself clear. Yeah, because sometimes I'm just starting in the field and I compare myself with other professionals that look
Right? Yeah.
so difficult and and it's hard. But with this idea tracking and shift this comparison just to yourself and self preference, I think that was really helpful for me. And I just want to share that, and it was really, really good about it. And one question in particular about the company is to Steph or to the lovely lady. I don't recall the name right now. I'm sorry. I have it. But I want to ask, what do you think about the like this all these persons that we are new in the field and we don't have an engineer degree? I don't know if it's growing the security awareness roles, or if you see this is possible for person like women for cyber in general. Sometimes we don't have the background. Have you seen it in your company or maybe in different companies?
You want to answer?
Yeah, sure, I can. Or you want
Go for it.
We've definitely seen non-engineers forge a career in this field. That's definitely possible. And if this is something that you know you want to do and you're passionate about, the fact that you don't have a degree, that really shouldn't be a barrier. And once you get into the field, there are plenty of resources. There are plenty of people like for instance, the Women for Cyber mentorship program is a great example. There are plenty of resources that could support you. And other things like training in particular skills you're interested in, if it's tooling, particular software that you want to be good at, or like for instance programming, there are a lot of resources available to you in order to build yourself up and make a career. So I hope like not having a tertiary education in a specific field or domain doesn't hold you back.
Yeah,
Thank
I,
you. Yeah.
I can just quickly also add to this. I completely with Ira. Also, for me, as someone who might be hiring someone, one thing I like to see if they have the chance, especially for technical roles, is some kind of portfolio projects people have been working on. It doesn't have to blow someone's mind away, you know, just start somewhere, be honest about where you are, what you know, what you don't know. Many people like playing CTFs, for example, which can be quite beginner friendly, some of them. But just showing that you are a bit passionate and making an effort goes a long way, I think.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. We have somebody else who wants to go ahead and ask a question. Please, you can just unmute yourself and go ahead. Meanwhile, we have a comment from Ludmila, and the comment says, no question, but the presentation was very interesting, especially the storytelling. I guess, yes, the storytelling resonates with everybody. I have a question of mine. Meanwhile, we're waiting for the rest, if you allow me. So how do you ensure diversity and inclusion efforts remain sustainable and not just short-term initiative during the team building phases? That's the first question. And the second question, it was actually the same question that Tatiana was asking, which is advice you would offer to someone who's aspiring to become cybersecurity professional and does not fit in the standard profile or doesn't come from a traditional background. And I think you have already answered this. So it's just the first question. How do you ensure diversity and inclusion efforts remain sustainable, even after the team building phase, and it's more durable, it's not short term?
I think I covered, for your first question, I think I covered part of it in the presentation, that yeah, once you get past, you know, hiring, onboarding, retention, how do we achieve that retention of talent, that is? You may have to take over, but I just want to say that it's really like the little things, like you see someone struggling, you know, you help them speak up in a meeting, you see that no one has contributed, that one specific person hasn't contributed, you kind of, if they're comfortable with it, you know, you give them the stage, ask them, hey, do you have anything you wish to add? This is something I noticed that happened in my own team when I joined Niantic, and I'm generally quite very quiet in meetings as well, and it helped me a lot. And now I kind of take that value on me, and I make sure that if I notice it happening, I would also do the same thing and kind of encourage and help someone else. For the second point, I also want to add to what Steph mentioned, that if I look at how I interview candidates, there's really not so much of a focus on what their degree says, etc. I mean, of course we read that, we take that into account, but what really matters is when you're doing an interview, you know, and you ask a question, how do you problem solve? How do you approach this? Those things carry a very heavy weight. So it's okay if you don't fit into the standard profile for technical roles. If you're passionate enough about a subject and you can demonstrate that very well, it's okay if you don't have the certifications.
Thank you so much. I think we're loving the answers. Anyone wants to go ahead with a question? We have less than 5 minutes left. So if you want to ask a question, now is the time. Meanwhile, I have shared with you a survey, which is the regular survey that I share every time to help me better organize the webinars. So please have a look at it, fill it in. It will take just 2 minutes, and that would be very helpful for me. Just one more thing. I shared with you that we opened the ninth edition of the mentorship program. So if you know somebody in your community who can be a mentor or who can be a mentee, so please share that with them. We will start in September. We have nothing going on for the summer except for the mentorship that is happening right now. I think we don't have more questions. So I would give the last word to Stefan Era. But first, I would like to thank you again so much for doing this. And guys, Era has to catch a flight right now. So can you imagine how tight was this for her? So again, I cannot thank you enough. Thank you everyone also for joining and for being here every time. And here we have also with us from the attendance the next speaker of the webinar. So I would like to say hi to her too. You'll have her name next week, so we'll keep the suspicion for now. Suspense, sorry. Thank you, Stefan Era, and the last words to you.
Thank you for spending this hour with us, I guess, and hopefully you learned something or encouraged you to make something a bit better in your life or around you.
All right. Thank you so much. And see you soon. Guys, follow the LinkedIn. Laura, our manager, will post about the calendar of the month in the beginning of the month. Thank you so much, Stefan Era. Have a wonderful evening. And see you everyone next month so soon. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you very
Bye.
much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.